Hello, everyone. Once again, thanks for joining. So this is our Singapore virtual meetup. So after quite a long time, we at Elastic thought of connecting with Singapore community group, where we'll be hopefully we'll be doing more continuous meetup, hopefully every month. So we wanted to keep you connected with all different topics, not just security. We wanted to connect across different infrastructural topics. So we have diverse solutions, right? So hope many would have been heard about Elastic. Elastic as a technology has different use cases, right? From open source technologies to commercial platforms. People build various use cases on top of Elastic. So today we have a tightly packed 1 hour sessions where we'll be talking about three important topics. So first thing is like some of the top SIM trends that is being adopted lately, maybe in 2021 or something like that, right? So these are some of the top SIM trends. Next thing is people who have been in the security community or security space know how much of this threat intel adoption and threat intel use case today the security operation centers are using, right? So we'll also talk about some threat intel adoption within the security ecosystems, within the SIM platforms and other things. As a third important topic, it's not always about SIM use cases, right? You need a right platform to make sure that your use cases are working good. You need to make sure that you have a proper performance metrics across your SOC platforms or SIM platforms. So with me, we have Louis Ong, who is our Elastic support engineer, has a wide variety of experience across different SIM solutions and Elastic, who will walk us through SIM performance metrics and especially with Elastic solution. So hope these three topics would be very much of interest to you. So we'll quickly cover these topics with slightly demos. By end of this session, we'll open to Q&A. You could unmute yourself, you could ask questions. We can have this meetup in an interactive way, or you could also leverage the chat box. So me and Louis will be happy to address all your questions, queries through chat boxes, right? So quickly, about me, I'm a senior solutions architect with global security specialist team here at Elastic, based out of Singapore. So, in my previous life, I have been across different security roles, from an analyst, architect, specialist. Right, I have worked in various security operation centers, global SOCs, managing multiple platforms, multiple use cases, and interestingly, I had few experience of building security platforms using Elastic Stack. I have quite a few projects in my GitHub page, wrote about threat intel platforms with Elastic Stack, security platforms with Elastic Stack, Bazoo, and various things. So that's a short introduction about me. Over to you, Louis, about a quick intro on you.
Thanks, Aaron. So basically, I had to deal a lot with SIM, particularly ArcSight. If you are familiar with, basically, I went around the whole of Singapore and some part of Indonesia and Malaysia deploying SIM as a professional consultant, and finally landed myself in the ArcSight technical support team and ultimately here. So I kind of like had to deal with pretty much a lot of stuff about SIM. So I'm very happy to share my knowledge or even learn from all of us here. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Louis. So let's get started. As I said before, we'll be having we'll be covering some major important three topics like SIM trends, threat intel adoption, and SIM performance metrics. So once again, let's keep this virtual meetup very interactive. So pour your questions or any queries in the chat box. So Luis will be happy to address all these things while I'm presenting, or also we'll open like last 5 to 10 minutes for Q&As, and let's connect together by unmuting ourselves. Cool. First topic is SIM trends. So I hope based on this topic, many would have been coming from security background. If not, just quickly introduction on SIM, right? Like basically security information and event management. That's what SIM stands for. So SIM being a central platform, you'll be ingesting a lot of logs, not just from the security devices, Today, SIEM is a central platform that could address multiple use cases beyond security. It could be your infrastructure logs, it could be your cloud logs, Windows logs, Linux logs, or even your physical devices can be integrated. Logs from your physical devices can be integrated with SIEM, and people wanted to have SIEM for various purposes. Like analytics is a advanced purposes, but initially, if you talk about evolution of SIEM, right, like where all this SIEM started, SIEM as a central platform, put in a layman's term, put it this way: SIEM is a central box or a central platform where you would be ingesting all types of logs, like be it your physical machines, cloud logs, DB servers, host missions, security devices, or whatever it is, right? Logs, events, packets, everything in a centralized way. Once you have so much information in a centralized way, that's where you get so much ways to analyze it, so much information to do it, decode it. You can do all sorts of things. So that's about the advanced analytics. The first part of SIM is to have meaningful information inside. Quickly talking about evolution of SIM, right? This is one of my favorite slide whenever I'm connecting to community. So it talks about how SIM has been evolved across in a decade, right? Initially, this central log management concept mainly started for compliance purposes. You wanted to make sure that you have all the logs stored to address certain complaints like PCI, whatever it is, right? Like for your auditing purposes, you wanted to have a centralized log management to make sure that you are compliant across different metrics. Next thing is, once people started seeing so many informations in a centralized way, they started doing analytics, right? Like the technology began to extract intelligence from those data. People started to see, like, create some metrics, create some dashboards, or they could understand how my business is moving, or what malicious artifacts are happening within my data. Why am I seeing this? How to fix this and things, right? And then talking about SIM plus plus, then SIM vendors added various adjacent technologies like intrusion detections, vulnerability assessments, threat intel enrichments, deceptions, and whatever it is, right? So they wanted to make sure that the technology is providing as much as value to you while you are buying this SIM box or a SIM platform. So that's where SIM vendors started adding various out of the box features and out of the box values out of it. And then once this SIM became one of the important criteria or one of the mandatory criteria across different organizations, across different verticals, then it came like SIM as a service. Then that's the evolution of MSSPs, right? Managed Security Service Provider. So mainly when you talk about SOC, when you talk about MSSPs, first thing they wanted to do is like SIM as a service. And obviously there'll be more advanced technology in the future, like SIM bundling with your internet service providers, or in the future security will be built inside your foundations of your network devices or whatever it is, right? Like today we are talking about SIM integrating with your SOAR platform, like automation, orchestrations, like not just collecting data, right? Not just detecting data. You wanted to take some responsive actions on your malicious detections. That's where SIM is moving, right? Everybody is integrating automations towards SIM, like SIM as a utility, as a unified platform. So that's where SIM is moving. So this is just a background about evolution of SIM. Okay, so the first topic, major trends that are foreseen with SIM lately. Like you could talk about like 2020s, 2021. What are some of the major trends, right? There are always trends changing. There are always needs changing. So these are not the top trends, but these are some of the major trends that a SIM or any security organization is looking or foreseeing with their SIM lately. It could be based on the various reports. So first thing is, everybody is moving towards a cloud infrastructure, right? So today this physical hardware are getting slowly replaced across different clouds. There are different use cases, people are moving towards that. So once you are moving towards cloud, right, you need a stronger cloud management and monitoring capability, right? All major cloud providers like AWS, GCP, Alibaba, Azure, Tencent, or whatever it is, right, they start providing in-depth analysis on their cloud infrastructure and application data. As a SIM platform, it would be great for you to integrate with those data, play around this data, and have a meaningful information around those metrics, traffic from your VPNs, virtual networks, information about your cloud storage, application log, serverless data, audit trails, or whatever it is, right? So as a SIEM platform, everybody wants to make sure that their SIEM or a centralized SOC platform is able to adapt and address stronger cloud management and monitoring capabilities. So in this segment, in SIEM Trends, right, I'll be going back and forth within these presentations and a demo. So to keep it interactive, so rather than just walking you through series of decks and series of slides, I'll be walking you through a real-time demo and slides, right? So now let's talk about how this addressing this cloud infrastructure data is addressed within Elastic. So let me quickly, yeah. So if you see, Elastic has their own integrations page, right? That talks about different integrations available today, like out of the box data integration modules, not just your security devices. It is across different use cases like your searching platforms. Observability is nothing but a triangle of logging, metrics, APMs, application performance monitoring, your infrastructure logs, network logs, host logs, and various things, right? Similarly, we also have a dedicated modules that could collect from different cloud metrics, right? Cloud logs and metrics. So this could be a out of the box curated starting point to make sure that you are having a stronger cloud monitoring and management capabilities. So as I said before, first thing in a SIEM is to make sure that you have uh, proper right data set inside your SIEM platform. So as a SIEM platform, as a security platform, we wanted to provide out of the box data ingestion metrics across different clouds. And next thing is providing all these modules comes with out of the box dashboards, right? So once you have data, we also wanted to give you like out of the box meaningful informations on this data. So that's what these out of the box dashboards are. Like uh, by default, all these modules comes with pre-built dashboards. Like you could quickly see what are the different metrics happening within your last 30 minutes. You can go back and forth with the time. So this is like a dashboard view of your uh, Elastic Kibana. You can keep it in full screen. You can put it in your soft TV or whatever it is, right? So you could quickly understand what are things happening within your cloud infrastructure. So not just cloud infrastructure, across any data that is being integrated out of the box modules. All right. So that's the first trend I see majorly, where everybody wants their SIEM to adopt with cloud management and monitoring capabilities. Next thing is data protection. So SIEM being a central platform, right? It has evolved a long way as we talked about SIEM evolution, right? SIEM as a service, and most of the security operations adopt SIEM as their frontline detection tools. So every SOC platform relies on their SIEM for their quick detections on their across different infrastructure logs. So data protection is nothing but the process of safeguarding some important informations, right? Like that could be your credit card data or your host data, network data, IP data, or sensitive data, or whatever it is, right? So some of the top best practice for data protections to look within a SIEM solutions are authentications, authorizations, data segregations, right? Like you need to have like high availability. Even suddenly, if there is some data loss, you need to make sure that you are not completely down within your data. So you need to have those data segregations across business units, across different clients, and importantly, encryption of data. So when we are talking about encryption of data, there are two types of encryption, like encryption at transit. So while data is transferring from your data source to your centralized SIEM platform, you need to make sure that the data at transit is encrypted. And also while data is getting stored inside your SIEM platform at rest, right? Like data is storing at rest, you need to do encryption at rest as well. So I'll quickly show you what are the different ways Elastic could adopt these different data protection techniques. So first thing is authentication, right? So Elastic has various out-of-the-box authentication that could help you in addressing, like making sure that username, passwords, integrating with your ADs, single sign-ons, LDAP, right? So you could integrate your Elastic environment with certain authentication techniques like within your security ecosystem. So that's something important. Second thing I'm going to talk about is a very interesting feature called Kibana Spaces. So hope many would know about Kibana, right? I'm just talking about Elastic. I'm assuming that many people know about Elastic. Like Elastic is nothing but um, kind of a stack that has Elasticsearch at heart, where the data is getting stored. And the one you are seeing in the screen is called Kibana. Kibana is nothing but a visualization layer of your data that is getting stored inside Elasticsearch. Okay, so this is Kibana. I'm going to talk about a feature called Kibana Spaces. So if you see, I have multiple spaces, right? So you could have this authentication, authorizations, and role-based access controls across different spaces. So let's go to this manage spaces, right? So you see, I could create multiple spaces and make sure that, let's say I have my IT team. IT team wants to have access to my data, but they don't want to have access to my firewall data. Why would my IT team want to access my firewall data, right? I can make sure that IT team can log in only to the IT space, or marketing team can log in only to a marketing space, and they will not have all the features. They will only have like restricted features. If you see here, only 5 out of 22 features are visible. So you could disable, enable whatever features you want as an administrator, right? So you can have this role-based access control. You can make sure that a single Kibana is accessing as a different space across different units. So this can be an additional value for your MSSPs, managed security service provider, right? Your client A wants to access dashboards for his data. You can make sure that it is not being overlapped with client B's data. So you can make sure that are segregated within the spaces, and the data that is getting stored inside Elasticsearch is also segregated within the shards, nodes, and all these type of things, or indexes, right? So that's pretty cool. You could have all these type of role-based access control, authentication, authorizations, and various things. Talking about encryption, Elastic by default, during the transit, while you are ingesting data from your data source to your Elasticsearch, is being encrypted or kind of secured with the TLS data. I mean TLS encryption. So and then also Elastic has an ability to provide encryption at rest. So encryption is also covered within Elastic. All right. So next thing, next important major trends I would like to talk is integration with security ecosystem. So yes, while SIEM was evolving, well, like few years back, SIEM is a Xylo a platform where they would be utilizing for analyzing the data, analyzing the trends or whatever it is. Now, as I said before, SIEM is evolving as a utility. SIEM is evolving as a service, right? They want to closely integrate and interact with security ecosystem. For example, modern security analytics is much more than just a SIEM, right? Like I see something detective or malicious in my environment using my SIEM detection. So rather than just detecting it to be malicious, how about my SIEM can integrate with my automation scripts or automation platforms or my EDRs or my firewalls or whatever it is, and then take some actions or give some meaningful information. Or a plain example, how about my SIEM integrating with my case management IT platform tool and quickly triggering a case management incident response tickets, right? So that's what I talked about, integrating your SIEM with security ecosystem. So SIEMs that have basic workflow automations have managed to maintain like efficiency beyond the basic SIEM, right? Like that could be like creating custom analytics, integrating with your threat intelligence platforms, ability to correlate between your data, multiple data sets, orchestrate. That's what I said. Orchestrate with third-party platform using APIs. So coming back to how this particular trend is adopted within Elastic security is that Elastic, being a rich API driven platform, you could integrate with third party systems using APIs. All the security UIs within the Elastic Kibana has been backed up by API. So you can utilize those API, webhook APIs to integrate your Elastic platforms with your third party systems. So Elastic has its inbuilt detection engine that could provide ability to correlate between the data, expand your hunting capabilities using timelines and various things, which we'll be seeing quite a few minutes in a demo. And then about this threat intelligence platform, we have a dedicated topic covering about threat intel adoption. So I'll cover those things during the second topic. Next trend is advanced analytics. So that's, I mean, it's been a long time trend, not just in 2020s or 2021. Advanced analytics within the SIEM has been adopted like quite a few years back, but in these recent times, these advanced analytics have been expanding to the complexity of the threats, right? For example, advanced analytical features within your SIEM needs to make sure that your mean time to detect (MTD) across your attacks should be reduced in a very less manner, right? Like you need to quickly detect. So writing a detection query, writing a rule, and then going for a coffee and coming back and seeing your query getting timed out are old days, right? Like I have been in those days like 5 years back, 6 years back. A complex query needs a lot of time for your SIEM analytics. Today, we are talking about NoSQL database. We are talking about millisecond response searches. Like search engine is being so much powerful in these days, right? So we are talking about reducing mean time to detect. So correlating within your multiple data sources, machine learning behaviors within your security platform, advanced detection mechanisms, threat intel lookups like a pre-ingestion, post-ingestion, built-in detection capabilities, right? So that's exactly what SIM is moving towards, advanced capabilities. So quickly talking about Elastic Stack, right? So this is your Elastic security detection view. So inside Kibana, if you see, we have like, this is different from your open source Kibana, right? Like a full-fledged Kibana, this is how it looks like. So it has multiple features, not just security, right? Like visualizations, dashboards, canvas, geospatial analysis with your maps, machine learning, right? So it could address multiple use cases across your ecosystems, across your business units. So we have like logging, metrics, application performance monitoring, or various things. And we also have a dedicated security tab inside Kibana that talks about different use cases. It starts with the overview tab that talking about your SIM detection alerts, your external alerts that can come from your AV, firewall, or whatever it is, your case management system integrations, your hunting timelines, or security news within your ecosystem, or within your Elastics, right? Like it could keep your analyst up to date information on new blogs, webinars, new attacks, and all these types of things. So talking about advanced analytic detection, so if you see, we have like different types of detection techniques, like machine learning detection, right? So Elastic has an inbuilt machine learning job that comes with out of the box detection techniques to find your suspicious login activity, rare process running in your environment, large DNS transfer, and whatnot, right? So you could create your own machine learning jobs using custom jobs, or you could leverage like 50 plus out of the box Elastic's machine learning job. Beyond this machine learning, we are also talking about various detection techniques like custom queries, threshold-based detections, correlation-based detections, right? So today, Elastic has 500 plus out-of-the-box detection rules. Like if you want to create your own rule, we have multiple options like custom queries, machine learning rules, threshold-based rules, right? So in this way, we could address various advanced analytics. And importantly, all these detection rules are mapped with cybersecurity frameworks like MITRE. Hope many would have been heard about MITRE frameworks, right? Like TTPs, techniques and tactic procedures. MITREs are nothing but non-profit organizations who are doing like a mapping of enterprise level cybersecurity attacks to proper techniques and tactic procedures, so that even a level one analyst will understand what this attack is about, what this technique is, what is the tactic of this attack or of this event, what is the procedure, how the attack is moving from one technique to next technique. So that helps your analyst to kind of uh, analyze hunt your data in a much more matured way. Elastic adopts MITRE framework right from the day one. So all its detection techniques are adopted with MITRE TTPs. So I would be very general, not just Elastic, right? Major SIEM solutions are adopting mightier framework across their detection techniques, across their hunting technique, right? Because that's been a major trend today across advanced analytics, right? The last final SIEM trends is flexible deployment method. That's something important, right? Like initially we talked about uh, uh, many people moving towards cloud, showing interest on moving towards cloud adoption, or they're completely having moving towards your cloud infrastructure. And there are focuses where people wanted to have hybrid infrastructure, right? They cannot move everything due to certain restrictions. They cannot move everything to cloud, so they have hybrid infrastructures. So as a SIM platform, as a SOC platform, you should be able to support these flexible deployment methods. So it should adopt different delivery models, including on-premise, cloud-based SIM platforms, hybrid deployments. Beyond this SIM deployment, it would be great to have integration flexibility as well, right? Like if it's a closed box where you just rely on your SIM platform to integrate data from different data sources, you don't have control over your data. Like you don't want to ingest all these data, right? It would be great to have flexible over your data integrations. Like I don't want to ingest all these events. I need to aggregate it. I need to normalize it. I need to drop few events. Or how about enriching your events during ingestion? I want to add some contextual informations to my events. So these type of flexibility during data integrations is also being one of the major trends. So now coming to the Elastic part, how these are being adopted. So Elastic is being widely supporting all major deployments like cloud-based deployment, on-premise, hybrid deployments, orchestrated automation models, and all these type of things. And talking about data integration, Elastic data integration completely supports flexibility over data. You could enrich, you could normalize, aggregate all these data using Logstash, Beats, and various things. So quickly, let me wrap it up with security analytics deployment phase, right? More than deployment phase, I would say security analytics maturity phase. Like first thing important is event collection. We talked about cloud event collection, different infrastructure and various things, right? Any SIM platform need to make sure that it addresses as much event collection as possible. More the data, more the information, more the use case, right? Like that's how you make sure that it's been majorly addressed. Next thing is detection, like broad set of detection strategies within your SIM platforms, comprehensive incident response workflows like case management, threat hunting, automations, or whatever it is, right? So that's some of the important use cases within your security analytics. Anomaly detections, like all the major SIM platforms are adopting machine learnings, anomaly detections. So rather than like a static detection or manual detection, right? How about automatically understanding your data pattern and adopting or analyzing your data patterns and then throwing some anomalies of your normalized data pattern? So machine learning can help you with that. All major SIM platform, including Elastic, are adopting anomaly detections. Next thing is threat hunting. It's not always about retrospective or reactive detection, right? Always you need to move to a much more matured curve, like proactive threat hunting, like correlating at the speed of the search, right? As I said before, you cannot wait for a coffee for a query to run. So you need to quickly run a complex query across multiple data sources. You need to do a threat hunting to proactively hunt for malicious data. So your SIM platform needs to support those type of proactive hunting capabilities, searching capability, dashboard capabilities, and importantly, now everybody is moving towards orchestrated model or a unified model, right? Like adopting SIM and endpoint technologies together, or adopting SIM and automations together. So people call a new term called XDR, like extended detection response, or whatever it is in the community. So it's like people moving towards a unified protection. So talking about this particular topic, I just wanted to mention Elastic is also adopting a unified protection, right? So if you just see, Elastic has an inbuilt endpoint capability. So It has a completely a signatureless endpoint technology built in within the Elastic Stack. So you have SIEM plus endpoint together. So it provides a signatureless machine learning capability to detect and prevent your malwares. It's an anti-malware capability. And also we have expanded into ransomware protections, right? Like it could also detect and protect your ransomwares. Beyond this, it could collect various telemetries from your host machines like DLLs, DNS, network, process, registry, and whatnot, right? So these type of telemetries can give you more added contextualizations to your data or for your hunting capabilities, right? So it's a very good use case of having SIEM plus endpoint together inside a single stack or a single platform. All right, so that's pretty much about the first SIEM trends, right? So I think I took quite a lot of time. So let's quickly wrap it up with threat intel adoption. Then I'll move it with Louis Young for SIEM performance metrics. So talking about threat intel adoption, I mean, before that, hope the SIEM trends make sense to you. Hope you got a better idea of what a major SIEM platform people are looking into. Now let's quickly talk about threat intel adoption. So threat intels are nothing but cyber threat intelligence, right? Like people call CTIs, data enrichments, and various things. Threat intelligence are nothing but some contextualization information obtained from previous known attacks. Like every attack will have its own techniques, tactics, or people call IOCs, indicators of compromise. Like that can be an IP address, hashes, CVEs, domains, host names, usernames, or whatever it is, right? Like malwares, URLs. So all these are indicators of a already known attack. So with this information, you could do much more in your centralized platform like SIEM. For example, you could quickly collect all this information in a centralized way and make sure that you are not being attacked with these type of information, because these are already a malicious information which you already collected from previous known attacks, right? There are various threat intelligence platforms that are providing you this information. There are open source platforms, there are commercial platforms providing you this information in a much more granular way. These informations can be utilized in both in a reactive way of detecting alerts using your SIEM indicator lookup, or in a proactive way like threat intel enrichments. So that's what we are going to talk about. So threat intelligence, as I said before, these are list of known indicators of compromise. So that helps to determine if events are malicious, right? For example, I'm having firewall data that is not blocked in my firewall. So it's an incoming successful firewall data. But those IPs and domains are already in my malicious list of known attack patterns. That is something suspicious. So I need to fine tune my firewall's block list. You got what I mean? So in this way, you are not just detecting malicious events, you are also improving your efficiency of your security devices, right? So you could add these lists to your firewall blocking events, or blacklist as hashes, or whatever it is, right? So that could help you to narrow down time to event resolution. Next use case is you have large set of SIEM alerts. Like it's a SIEM alert fatigue, right? You need to always fine tune it. But how do you prioritize your alerts, or how do you make sure that these alerts are high severity and these alerts are medium severity, low severity, or whatever it is? So what I could do is I could enrich my events with this malicious information. So just in case, if my alerts are something enriched with this malicious already known attack information, that should be my high severity. My analyst needs to focus on those alerts immediately with top priorities, right? So that's what you could have. You could bump up your alerts, severities, and priorities using this malicious information. So now you know the use case of this IOCs, threat intelligence malicious information. Next thing is, how do you utilize or how do you collect these malicious information, right? So there are various ways to collect this malicious information. It can be a file, it can be an API. So various open source platforms, commercial platforms provide these informations in a much more different way. From Elastic, as I said before, in the data integration module, we also have a threat intelligence module, right? Like we have an inbuilt threat intelligence module that talks about like various collection of various threat intel IOCs, like feeds, threat feeds. So today it supports various open source modules like abuse URL, abuse malware, missed instance, OTX, anomalies, and various things. In the next releases, we'll be supporting more open source feeds and commercial feeds where you could ingest those data inside Elasticstack. Once these data are malicious feeds are inside Elasticstack, you could detect and analyze these using detection rules. So I talked about detection rules, right? So I'm navigating you to the SIEM detection rules. If you see, I have, if you go to managing detection rules, you have something like indicator match rule. So you could match your incoming data with your threat intel data. And if it is matching, you could detect alerts, right? So I already have some detection alerts that I can show for you. So if you go back to detections, you see I have something like network connection to suspicious IP. So if I filter this out, I'm going to just open all my last 7 days alerts with my suspicious IP or malicious IP. So if you see, my internal IP is connecting to this particular source IP. So I wanted to understand what the source IP is. The source IP is already malicious that is coming from my threat intel feeds. So I can quickly have a virus total lookup and I could understand that this is something malicious, right? So I can already alert some malicious events that is triggered with previously known attacks. So that is first thing. Second thing is enriching your data. So this is what you are seeing in the screen is called Canvas. So Canvas is nothing but think of it as a digital PDF. You could put your own logos, you could put your custom images and whatever it is, and you could have like multiple pages into a management report or whatever it is. So I'm just showing you a security metrics about my SIEM alerts. In the next page, I have my threat enrichment metric. This is coming from my threat intel adoption. So NIDS, Network Intrusion Detection System. How many NIDS alerts are with malicious IOC, indicators of compromise? In last 30 days, I have my 14 NIDS alerts with malicious known attack indicators. Similarly, host intrusion detections, right? I have 714 alerts. That is something suspicious. So I need to fine tune my HIDS to block rather than alerting. Next thing is I don't have any AV alerts with IOCs. That's good. And importantly, unblocked malicious domain. These are all malicious domain based on my known attacks coming from my threat intel feeds, but that are not blocked in my firewall. These are successful firewall events. That is something suspicious. Why should my firewall not block this known malicious domains, right? In this case, I need to increase my firewall efficiency by adding these domains in my block list IPs or block list in my firewall ACL rules or whatever it is, right? So I need to work on my this type of efficiency. So this metrics could give you a lot of information. So technical adoption can be like both proactive metrics as well as reactive detection alerts. So threat intel is a very vast topic. Maybe in the next meetup we can have a dedicated topic talking about missed threat intel adoption and various things. So let me know if you are interested in this topic. We can have a dedicated session around threat intel with Elastic or threat intel in general. All right. So I took a lot of time. Sorry, it's been a vast topic. I wanted to cover quickly for this large set of audience. So quickly, I'll pass it over to Louis Ong. As I said before, it's not always about detecting things within your SIEM. You need to make sure that your SIEM has proper performance so that you could address these detections, use cases in a much more efficient way, right? Now let's hear from our support engineer, Louis Song, who will be walking us through SIEM performance metrics.
Thanks,
Thank
Aaron.
you, everyone. Over to you, Louis.
Thanks, Aaron. Wow, I didn't realize it's much stressful to answer questions in the meetup without seeing you, because like wow, so many questions. I think I missed some of them, so apologize for those questions that I did not manage to answer, but I'll try to get back to you. So yeah,
No
I think
problem. I'll address that. Yeah, sure.
Thanks. Yeah, I think one of the question Salman Khan asked how to size Elastic SIEM. Interestingly, we are going to talk about this in fact right now. So when we talk about SIEM performance, maybe I'll just give you a little bit background, like what I used to deal with, like as from a support perspective. Like I used to be dealing with like issues coming with me, like a rule causing the whole correlation engine go down, or in fact, you run a report and it takes like half an hour to 1 hour, and that sort of thing. So coming back in Elastic world, later on you see that, wow, in fact we are actually dealing with times like milliseconds. Like if you have milliseconds of slowness in the Elastic world, it's considered sometimes not acceptable. Yeah, so this is an interesting change in what I had to deal with. So when we talk about, sorry, Harvan, can you help me move to the next slide, please? Yeah, okay. So we talk about sizing, right? Yeah, so we start off from the basic Elastic sizing, like basically you may start off the cluster, you deploy it. You may have a very generic use case. You want to ingest data and you want to like do a little bit of searching, not very intense. Like, so I'm just using a very normal general logging use case in this example. So the basic thing we want to do is like, at least we make sure how many shards that is suitable for your deployment, for your use case, how big, how small. So for this, because of time constraint, I'm not going to go into very deep detail, but I'll leave you with the link that I normally share with the customers. Like we always ask how many shards do I have. So have a look at those. At the link, you will find very interesting tips. Yeah, and then secondly, when we talk about security use case, like what Haran has walked us through previous in the last 30 minutes or so, we are actually involved, like very focused on detecting threats. If you are in that use case, then you will want to look more intentionally at how to size it for a security use case. For example, if you start out with a general logging use case and then you realize, wow, now I have all this data, and you decide that you want to just turn on the security, Elastic security or detection engine or whatever you call it, SIEM, they are all the same. So you turn it on and then you realize that, wow, you have so much data, and you suddenly have the option to the capability to detect use cases. So this is what you want to. We have a webinar that really talks especially on how to size for that. So yeah, next slide, please. Thanks, Aaron. And when we talk about SIEM, I look at it as fundamentally a use case search. I mean, apart from the ingest, because before you search, you need to ingest data, right? So if you put it away, basically a SIEM, efficient SIEM, you need to have a very strong or fast search capability. So I look at a SIEM use case as fundamentally a search use case. So what, from a support perspective, I'm concerned about long running queries that are expensive, that cause other queries to stop running and things like that. So in the detection engine, well, sorry, I think the slide just went off. Yeah, fine. So in detection engine, SIEM is actually, in fact, in Kibana app, SIEM is actually an app within the broader Kibana framework. So there are queries that comes from detection rules from the detection engine, and they are all running side by side along with other apps, like you have Discover, you have Lens, you have so many apps, right? Running concurrently. So how do you know like what query originating from what app is causing impact or having a long running duration, right? So the part of the challenge was to have a way to measure the performance and to be able to identify and nail down to a particular rule how it performs, right? Next slide, please. Sorry, I'm going to just quickly rush through this. So basically, in Kibana, we have an internal built-in Elastic APM Node.js agent that you can turn it on, and then you can use that to actually measure whatever queries that's coming out of the Kibana app itself. And we have an improved instrumentation that is targeted to land in 7.14. So, but if you're like me, you couldn't wait till 7.14 release. So there's something that you can do to actually test it. So next slide, please. Yep. So the way to test it for right now, is to use a local Kibana development build, because right now it hasn't, this feature hasn't, the improved instrumentation haven't been released yet. So if you want to test it now, right now what you can do is to clone the Kibana repo, and then you can pull the PR branch, and then you switch that branch particularly, then you can actually start testing it. Next slide, please. So we're going to take a quick look about on the APM config. By the way, APM here, yeah, in case I missed it, it's basically application performance monitoring. Yeah, it's part of the feature in Kibana as well. So the config here, you see active means we are going to turn on the built-in agent, and the server URL, basically you're pointing to a APM cluster. This cluster, in this case, I'm using a cloud. You can always spin a free trial. You can just spin it up and test it. The good thing about this is you don't have to manage the APM server cluster in-house. Yeah, and you have an APM token. Basically, that's for authentication. And central config, basically you can leave it false, because that's more like if you want to remotely deliver this settings updated. And then more importantly is the transaction sample rate. By default, we actually recommend 0.1. I turn it out to 1. Basically, I want to test. We want to have all data. By doing that, you will also expect to incur certain overhead as well. Yeah, and then also the capture span stack traces. That is the main highlight as well. Basically, this feature allows us to capture stack traces for queries that is long running, and you can see later on we can actually see the query within that long running app or something like that. Yeah. So some important notes here. I think I will just leave you with that. Just in the constraint of time. Next slide, please. And this is what you will be using in the Kibana. So for your development build, this is something that you will use. Basically, are some of the common things that you want to use, like you ignore the version match mismatch. In case if you're a developer, you can be running a developer build 8.0, very advanced version, but you can still actually test it with like a lower version of the GA 7.10 or 7.11 Elasticsearch cluster. So so that is mainly more catered to in a development environment. Yeah, but otherwise the standard things are you point it to the cloud. In this case, I'm using a cloud cluster as well. Basically pointing to a Elasticsearch cluster where I have all my indicator index according to the rules that the index is stored in that cluster, and my Kibana build is going to spawn a query to query those indices. Yeah, so that's general concept. Next slide, please. And then when we start collecting APN metrics, basically we start the development build. And then if everything goes well, you would see stats coming into your APM cluster. Yeah, next slide, please. And this is basically a generic view of how our rule looks like. Basically, I'm using an indicator match rule. So this rule in the detection engine has the option to query an indicator index pattern. So think of it, indicator index pattern like IOC index. You store all your threat intel from different sources, and then you can actually do mapping, indicator mapping to ask the rule to match anything that is coming from the source. If there's a heap, you can generate an alert. Yeah, so in this case, I'm using the elastic-tip. So next slide, please. Later on, we will see this elastic-tip index coming into the picture. So this is the APM side. Once we have the rule running, and we go to the APM under the transactions tab, if you choose the task manager run type of transaction, you will see that the alert SIEM signal, this basically calling out the detection engine being flagged out as the longest running average duration, having basically is the slowest transaction. Yeah, if you click on it, next slide, please. And then you will see the next thing you will see is there will be a trace being captured. And then when you click on the trace, you will see this waterfall diagram. Basically, it tells you, if you look closer to it, you will see a lot of search being run on this index elastic-tip, because this rule is a bad rule. Why I say it's bad? Because I intentionally running in every second and having a very long look back time. Basically, you're querying a lot of data over a long time span, and it's running every 1 second. That's why you see a lot of waterfall kind of effect. Yeah, so you can see that it's basically a lot of queries are running against the elastic tip index. Yeah, so next slide, please. And finally, this is where we want to get to. Remember, our initial challenge was we want to be able to narrow down to the query that is taking long running duration. So this is the part where you can actually see the actual query from the detection rule execution, and it also tells you a little bit about the where in the source code it is calling. So it gives us a clear idea of it's actually spending a lot of time gathering the thread data, which is stored in the elastic tip index. Yeah, so with this, we can actually work backwards to have a better way to fine tune our rules. So this is a very, very good way to actually trace your rules performance. Yeah, I think this is the last slide. I think so. Yeah. So in fact, that is my last slide. So yeah, if you have any questions, do we still have a short 2 or 3 minutes for FAQ?
Yes, sure. So we have like 5 minutes left for the 4 o'clock. So we can open for quick questions. So please unmute yourself or post the questions in the chat. We can keep it interactive. So meanwhile, hope many would have been already part of this community Slack. So we have a community Slack, not just for security, right? We could use it across different use cases like search, detections, or APMs, or whatever it is. It's across the globe, so you could connect with different regional community members, Elastic members. So me, Louis, will be part of this community Slack. So join us here. So it's completely a community forum. So meanwhile, let us know if you have any questions. Hope the session was useful across different interesting topics. So once again, thanks for joining.
Yeah, thank you, Harun and everyone for the wonderful session. So I just have 2 questions. One is related to sticks and taxi integration. I think one of the users have already asked. Maybe can you give more information on that? How Elasticsearch can integrate with the sticks and taxi?
Yeah, so today, like this threat intel integrations within Elasticstack has been adopted in out of the box modules have been adopted like 2-3 releases back. So today we are supporting modules that can be integrated directly with APIs, JSON files, or something like that. So maybe in the next releases, we have a dedicated team working on collecting these different IOCs from different formats as well. So when you say sticks and taxis, it's not like it's just a format, right? So with that platform, is there any chance your platform can support APIs or put your logs in a file, in a JSON format, syslog, or whatever it is? In that case, you can store that in a centralized file, and then FileBeat or Logstash can collect that file.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And the other one is, what are the plans for OT integration? So far, what in the integrations part, I can see many of the IT infrastructure out-of-box integrations. So I'm just curious, what are the Elastic team's plans for OT integration as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's been a recently interested topic across different organizations, different customers. Even a big customers is working closely with Elastic on these type of integrations. So it's in the plans. So we are already adopting OT integrations in the future. So it should be soon. Today, we are not into that space where we are out of the box integrating OT logs. But if you can parse using Logstash grogs or something, you can do that your way. There are a few use cases people have done and shared their experiences before. But from Elastic side, it is already in the plans. Soon it will be in the future.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yep.
It's regarding the data protection. I get to see the slide that you have in the data protection. Basically, it's an overview of data protection. So out of the box, Elastic, what kind of data protection that does it provide? What are available rules to be able to look at some of the data protection requirements? So I get to see that, yes, you can integrate with the different services, but that is more from the access control. But of course, in terms of ensuring that complying with the data protection in terms of P2I as well as the PDPA, can you actually elaborate more on this?
Yeah, so like data protection is not like a single kind of an rule-based detection or something like that. Like data protection is a collection of capabilities. Like data, everything is like can path the way to data protections. For example, what I mean is, if you wanted to protect your data while ingesting during the transit, that also is an important data protection capability. And then you want to segregate your data in a multiple index ways or in a multiple way so that it's not overlapping. You are protecting your one customer's data from the other customer's data. That is another data protection capability. And then authentications, authorization, right? You need a right authentication. You should make sure that that data is not accessed by unauthorized person or any persons, right? So you need to make sure that this particular data is authenticated and authorized only by respective peoples. So that's another data protection capability, right? So in general, the term data protection is protecting your data, and when it comes to capabilities in multiple ways. So talking about Elastic's data protection features, whatever I have explained now can be addressed within Elastic Stack in an inbuilt feature way. Elastic has a role-based access control to make sure that you are protecting your data from authorized persons with a role-based access controls, attribute-based access controls. So even I have access to that particular large data set, you could filter out that I am not accessing that particular field, like a sensitive credit card field or something like that, right? You can have field level control, attribute based control within your data. So that's granular level data protection is available. And then encrypting your data during transit or while storing inside Elasticsearch is another layer of data protection. And then segregating data while storing it in Elasticsearch. For example, my client A data is completely segregated in a different index, different Kibana spaces, different roles, access controls, and then client B is in a different way. So that's another level of data protection. So beyond this is like protecting your data that is getting stored inside Elasticsearch. And then while you're talking about IAMs, like identity access management, or protecting your data to or detecting your unauthorized access, that can also be achieved through Elastic detection rules. Like you are collecting your AD login attempts or whatever it is, right? Your cloud, your AWS IAM logs or whatever it is. So we have out of the box rules for these type of detections, like unauthorized login, suspicious login activity. So that is also another layer of making sure that your data is not accessed or protected by proper in a proper manner. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Maybe I have another question which regarding the endpoint. You mentioned that the endpoint is agentless. So in what other way are you able to actually ensure that you have all this endpoint to be protected? Because is it through the log that you have ingress to the Elastic, or so it could be what's the method that you use?
I mean, I did not get your question. So what do you mean by agentless endpoint?
You mentioned that there's no requirement for you to have any agents installed on the endpoint when you look at the endpoint protection. So what actually is the method that you use to without the agent?
Okay, so I think, so my understanding is this is a separate questions from your data protection, right? So this is about your endpoint protection, right?
Yes, you mentioned the slide that you have endpoint protection.
Right. Perfect. Yes. So basically, talking about endpoint protection, it's like an next-gen anti-malware capability. I did not mention agentless endpoint. We have an elastic agent called endpoint that has an endpoint capability. I mentioned like signature-less protection. So it's not like a traditional signature-based AV. It's a signature-less protection. It has an inbuilt machine learning algorithm which is completely trained, and those machine learning algorithms are continuously upgraded, updated in each releases. So that particular agent is, will help you in detecting and protecting anti-malwares, file-based malwares, file-less malwares, and also behavior-based ransomware protections.
Okay, I see. Thanks.
Okay, one last question from my side. This is Jitendra. Any plans from a elastic security certifications point of view? I can see elastic engineer and observability related certifications. Any plans from security point as well?
Yes, Jitendra, like it's happy to see interest from the community on elastic security certifications. We recently developed observability certifications. So we have a dedicated team along with the certifications team is working on security certifications as well. So soon it will be, I mean, there is no timeline, but it's already in the plans, and soon we should have solution-based certifications like security as well, similar to observability.
Yeah, looking forward for that. It would be a great help for the people who are already into elastic SIEM and security products. Thank you.
Definitely, like again, it's happy to see the interest. We are already on it. So even personally, I'm looking forward to it as a security analyst. So meanwhile, if you want to speak in upcoming meetups about your experience of building things with Elastic Security or Elastic Stack, or not just Elastic, right? Like integrating things around these spaces, please feel free to reach to us, reach to me or Louis, LinkedIn or Slack or whatever it is. So we'll be happy to facilitate your talks in our meetups as well. So I could see there are so many questions. People have different use cases, advanced use cases, different interests across multiple things. So it would be great to hear your experiences in our upcoming meetups.
Sure, definitely. Thank you.
All right, so we are past 4 o'clock. Like once again, thanks for joining. It's been overwhelming questions. So I'm personally happy across these interactions. So once again, thanks for joining. Looking forward for monthly commitments on these meetups and interacting with the community. And stay safe. Bye-bye. And thanks, Louis. Thanks, Michael, for facilitating this.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.